Okay, I hope everyone heard that. And we have a quorum. It's 7:18, 7:19 now. We have a big agenda, so why don't we get to it? I guess that Lily did not distribute minutes of a previous meeting. Robert, the feedback seems to be coming from your computer.
You
The
sure
what?
it's Suzanne's on twice?
Well, yes, but she's muted. When,
Muted, it's not me.
yeah, when I'm talking, the feedback was coming from Robert, but he muted his computer, so now it's coming, not coming.
Better.
Okay. So if you need to say something, just hold the space bar down and you can talk. Okay. So there are no minutes to review. So let's talk about the issues raised by the Cape and Islands Energy Committee meeting, which I managed to skip. But Carol and Suzanne were there. Were you there, Robert?
Suzanne was not there.
Oh.
Lily was
I
there
wasn't there.
for
Oh.
most of the meeting.
Well, you raised a number of issues. Do you want to talk to them? I'm sorry, you didn't raise them. It was in the notes that I got from the meeting. And there were three issues. One had to do with electric buses for schools. One had to do with stretch code revisions. And the third issue was getting the town to sign up for being behind climate action, which we have done so many times in town that I'm going to ignore that.
Well, Suzanne can talk about the electric buses initiative because I was carrying the torch for her that night.
Yeah. So, so the reason I think, Dick, what you were looking at, what you were just alluding to were post-meeting action items.
Right. Yes.
Right. So the electric school bus was the thing that I was going to present that night. Carol did it, but I believe everybody's seen the letter that I sent around as a draft to Paul Hilton, who is the executive director of Cape Cod Collaborative, which provides school bus service to much of the Cape, including all of the outer Cape. So that letter was distributed, or it wasn't distributed at the meeting, right, Carol? But she posted it, Liz Argo did, afterwards for people to see. In addition to that, you know, I can talk more about that. I haven't heard back from Paul Hilton, but in the meantime, I know that the Eastham Climate Committee has also written to him on the subject. And I've been in contact with the Cape Cod Climate Change Collaborative. They received a letter, they liked it. They want to, I don't know if they're going to reprint it in their newsletter, but they want to put it somewhere up on their page, and they want to make it an action item for other towns to encourage the collaborative, the school bus management to take advantage of the rebate program that the EPA is
So have
offering.
we, as a committee, officially sent the letter?
I did.
You did, on behalf of the committee?
I did.
Okay. Now, the next step I'd also think is we should ask the select board to send the letter. Right? So
Yeah.
we put that forward to the select board, asking them to request the school system to look at electric buses. And then I think we've done our lobbying part for a while. Okay?
I did contact the school committee through Martha Gordon, who's the chair.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
yes. I forgot them.
She said personally, she was very on board with it, but that they weren't the decision maker. And so she passed it on to a couple of people who are in a decision-making situation, like our representative to the Nauset School Committee,
Mhm.
who's on our elementary school committee. And I responded to her and said, you're an interested party like the Energy Committee is, but
Mhm.
apparently they're not going to meet again until September. So it's
Okay,
kind of a moot point. Too bad.
well, but why don't we go on record of sending the letter to the school board? Our
Well, I did.
Wellfleet School, we did
I
send
sent
it
it
to
to the
them.
to the chair of the elementary school committee. She said she would raise the issue the next time they met.
You sent
I
it to
also
Martha then.
contacted the principal of the Wellfleet Elementary School.
Mhm.
Haven't heard back from her, but I sent her a copy of the letter that we sent to Paul Hilton and asking her to
Okay,
lend their support. But one thing I wanted to add to this is that the deadline for this, and it's always, these programs are always very confusing because they give you a short time to work
Mhm.
with and a lot to do within that window of time. So there's a good chance that the Cape Cod Collaborative is not prepared at this time to meet that deadline. But I think that this exercise could maybe be done to get everybody on board with this. For the EPA is going to come up with other rebates, but this isn't the only one.
Mhm.
I don't know when the next ones are going to come about, but I think it's, even if they don't make this deadline, which would enable them to apply over the next 5 years. So, that in itself is confusing, that you have to meet a deadline in August to be able to apply over the next 5 years. But, my understanding is that this is not the only offering that EPA is going to come up with. So it's just a good opportunity to make everybody aware of it and get behind it and try to persuade the Cape Cod Collaborative to take advantage and move
I
towards
agree with you
electric buses.
100%. This is just part of a continuing set of keep them informed and
Yeah,
pressure. But the next step in
exactly.
pressuring them is to get a statement from the select board saying that
Yes,
the select board, and so let's write to the select board asking for them to send the
I'll
letter.
do that. I'll
Okay.
do that. Yeah.
Right. It's continuous pressure. I'm not looking at don't want to give the impression I care about a specific deadline because this is
No,
ongoing. Yeah, right.
oh, no, no, I just didn't want to give the impression
Yeah.
that we're trying to rush this
No.
and hope to squeeze it in, because I just don't see it happening necessarily. So
Right.
yeah, we're on the
It's a
same page.
long-term effort. And it will take
Exactly.
other towns to do the same thing.
Yes.
All right. The next item on that list of action items was stretch code revisions. So let me briefly talk about the stretch code. There's the current building code and there's the upcoming building codes. And the existing code comes in the standard code and the stretch code. And as part of our Green Communities application, we adopted the stretch code in 2014. And the way that works is every time they issue a new stretch code, we automatically adopt it. So there's a new revision on the table, and there will be 3 codes this time, not 2. One is the standard code, one is the stretch code, and one is the special stretch code. It doesn't quite have a name, but they either call it the special code or the extra special code or whatever. Now, with regard to the new codes, the standard code is what is currently the stretch code. But the standard code doesn't apply to Wellfleet because we automatically adopt the stretch code as part of our commitment to green communities. And the only way to stop that is to drop out of the Green Communities program, something that's extremely unlikely in this town. So we will be adopting the new stretch code automatically as soon as the state publishes it, which should be sometime before the end of the year. Okay, but so that's what we will adopt sometime before the end of the year is the 2022 stretch code. But there's this new special stretch code, which may be in 2022 or 2023. And that code has as its goal the same things that we have adopted, that is being net zero by 2050, being 25% below at 2020, 50% below at 2030, 75% below at 2040, etc. So the special stretch code is aligned, its aim is to be aligned with the goals that we have already adopted. And as an aside, I found on the town's website somewhere or on our website, I guess, our history that we adopted those goals as a committee in 2018. The town adopted those goals 2020, and the state adopted them in 2021, something like that. I sent it to you, Robert, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, though that whatever that wording is, it's on our website. So that's what this new special stretch code aims to support. Now,
What is
they
it?
won't,
What,
yeah,
Dick, what does it mean to say we support it?
we have adopted it as our goal. What it means is we're going to take actions. That's our plan. We're going to take all the actions to implement it. The town, for example, when there's a special stretch code that's aligned with that more aggressive goal, we will bring it to town meeting and try to get the town to adopt it.
So these are things that have to be approved by the town.
Every
At the town
specific
meeting.
action, like put in insulation, well, doesn't take town meeting, but a specific action to change the building code may take town meeting action. Okay, so the town is committed to try to do that, and we will go forward and remind everybody this is what we agreed to do. So let me talk about the 2022 or 2023 special code. One, it hasn't been defined yet, but it aims at net zero, and they're beginning to talk about net zero greenhouse gas emission rather than just net zero energy usage. They haven't quite made the transition yet, but they're recognizing that there's a difference and that greenhouse gas emissions as zero is what we're interested in. Okay, so they're beginning to transition that way. But since the building trades are all involved and they're all at more insulation, there's this tension between the people advocating, trying to decide what this stretch code should contain. But at the top level, it's net zero greenhouse gas emissions. So we'll see. We'll participate in all the comments, and as I get notice of hearings and comments on the stretch code, I'll pass it along so we can all stay informed.
Question,
Yeah,
does this apply to the town as a total or specifically to the buildings owned by the town?
The building code, and the stretch code is a version of the building code, applies to all new construction. And that means, and also major revisions. And that means whether that building is owned by the town or owned by a private resident, that building code applies.
But this has to do with new construction.
It has to do with new construction and major revisions. And it's a building code. That's what we're talking about, a building code. It doesn't go before the planning board, it's a building code. At least I don't think it goes before the planning board, but it's, that's what it is. Like you need 6-inch studs in the wall, that's the building code. Okay, now you don't have to tear down your old house and put in 6-inch studs, but if you put in a new addition where you've got bare walls, or you're tearing down your old building and the walls are bare, you need 6-inch studs.
Okay, my point here is that does not say that the town as a whole will achieve zero.
No, by itself, it doesn't guarantee it, no.
Because it does not deal with the existing structures or
That's
any
right.
way of forcing people with the existing structures to do this.
That's correct. Because insulation, building codes mostly deal with insulation, and insulation is not the only way to get to net zero greenhouse gas emissions. It's changing your heating system that has a bigger effect. Okay, and that ultimately may affect existing buildings, but not in this code. However, this code, which is for new buildings, does call for all electric heating in new buildings. Okay, so that now
It's just that achieving net zero is something that has to be, amplified in terms of what that actually means.
yes. And this code alone is not going to do it. But what let's talk about this new code. It'll be finalized. The requirement is it be finalized at the end of the year. And then it has to get adopted by a town meeting that occurs at least 6 months after it's finalized. So we can't go to spring town meeting and bring it up. So if there's a special town meeting in the fall of 2023, that's the earliest it can be on the warrant. More likely it'll be the spring of 2024. So we are talking about a long-term effort to familiarize people with this code and get it through without any opposition, or with, it takes a 2/3 vote to adopt a new building code. So we have a long-term project ahead of us. All right, we're already we are already automatically adopting the 2022 stretch code, because that's our commitment to the green communities. So we don't have to worry about that. We only have to worry about this new step, and this new step is opt-in. The legislature, when they allowed this new stretch code, the special stretch code, said towns would need to opt in, even though the green communities people are saying, well, maybe there'll be some extra green status and we'll give you grants based on this, adopting this new code. They're talking about, but nobody knows. Okay, so that's all I have to say on that. Does anyone else care to make any other comment about that? Okay, we had the next item on the agenda, moving
Dick,
along.
if I may, could I
Yeah.
say some other things about the
Sure.
ECCI meeting? They have a lot of great stuff on their website. One thing it brought to my attention that I had not been aware of is that the Green Communities Division has put out a new announcement and a webinar. They are recasting the Green Communities program, and their tentative title is Climate Leaders 2.0 Climate Leaders. And they are in this webinar, they're talking about how to define this new program, and they want comments by August 5th.
Yes,
Anybody's interested in looking at that, I think it would be a good idea.
yes, you are right. I meant to bring that up too, not under this guise, but separately. But
Okay,
yes,
good.
they are, so you have to go to the Mass CEC website to find it, right?
You can go to the ECCI website and it's there.
Okay,
It's like the second thing on their website.
right. So I
And they
think
have a lot of great
everybody,
stuff.
as individuals, we should look at it and make comments.
Could you send that link to everybody? The
Okay.
ECCI link?
Yep,
Yep,
I'll send the link.
thank you.
The Cape Light Compact has a new rebate program up to 75% of the cost on e-bikes. And they have a number of other programs
is
going on,
e-bikes?
lawn equipment,
What
electric
does
bikes,
e-bikes mean?
electric bikes.
Oh, electric bikes. Oh, yes. The electric bike program has to be done by signing up bike shops rather than individuals. And it's the,
But
and
individuals can get the rebates.
what? The individual
Individuals get
gets the rebate, but it only works by signing up the bike shops who are sellers. And so I contacted all the bike shops and didn't hear from any of them. Okay, nobody called me back. So I haven't gone down, because in each bike shop, they've got 2 or 3 stores and you have to find the owner to get someone serious to talk to you. So I haven't driven around looking at bike shops to figure out who the owner is and have them call me. But the bike shop has to apply for this rebate program. And none of the ones in Orleans or out here have done so. So there's one in Eastham, one in Wellfleet that's also in Eastham and Orleans, and then one that's just in Orleans. I
And
don't
none
know.
of them are participating, or?
None of them have applied.
Huh,
And
too
it's a
bad.
75% up to $1,200. And when we last looked, the bikes were selling at $1,600 or more. So you're going to get, yeah, these e-bikes are expensive.
Wow.
So you're going to get $1,200 off. And I think it's income eligible people. You can't just walk in and say, I'd like an e-bike, give me $1,200. You have to be low, you have to meet the eligibility requirement.
The next net zero conference given by the 5 Cs is scheduled for October 29, and it's going to be virtual. It's going to have 3 themes: offshore renewables, climate and the housing crises, those 2 crises together, and local activism. And their strategic plan for next year is focusing on local activism.
Right. And I'd like to talk about that. That's a later item in the agenda about
Okay, good.
what we'll do on that. But yeah, okay, so
So there were a bunch of interesting reports from the different localities. The one that I found most interesting, Chatham went through the Cape Cod Commission report on the economic impact of sea level rise. And they put together a presentation for their select board about what sea level rise would mean for Chatham. $3 billion in losses. That got the attention of their select board. And they identified 6 areas that they need to take action with right now: salt marsh protection, septic and clean water, the building code, participation in Mass Save, which for us is Tape Light Compact, by community members, especially non-residents, transportation, including EVs, and a resiliency bylaw to cover things like stormwater runoff. So I thought that was kind of powerful, that they were working on that. It's a subject that scares me to death. And I
Has
don't,
has anybody done the analogous thing for Wellfleet?
no, and that's at least not as far as I know. But maybe we should.
So we have no specific measures of the consequences for shellfishing, for instance?
As far as I know, no. I think Liz Argo said that the total was $18 billion for the Cape that they identified as potential losses, well, predicted losses.
Did
So-
Chatham issue a report?
Did Chatham issue a report?
Yeah,
I'm
when they
not
did this
sure.
analysis.
I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance to look at their website yet. It was a presentation to the select board. That's the one thing I'm sure of.
Okay, well, if you can find it, let's stick a reference, a link to it on our website.
Yeah, and maybe we should, put together a subcommittee to look at doing something analogous for us.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to have Wellfleet address this issue.
So the next meeting, I urge you to look, the meeting is available on the website. I will send out a link to the website. So you can look at the meeting minutes, meeting video. And then their next meeting is Thursday, September 15th. So we want to avoid scheduling that day for us. Thank you.
okay, Thursday, September 15th. All right.
And there are 2 towns that got sustainability directors, which is terrific.
That got the same what?
That got full-time sustainability directors.
Who, besides Falmouth, who?
I think it was Barnstable. And in both
Yeah.
cases, it's delayed a little bit, but they got the approval. So,
Right, but their town government is probably, in Barnstable is 7 times what ours is, 10 times. They have 7 villages, all of which are larger than Wellfleet.
right. We may not be in their league.
No,
Is there details about exactly what's included in the sustainability objectives?
There would be a job description, I presume, although I know that Barnstable is still working on theirs. So this is a position, not a plan.
mhm.
Yeah, but there might be some characterization of the position.
Well,
Yes.
that's job description.
I don't know what's available on their website. I don't think either of these are advertised yet.
Mhm.
Okay. So. All right. We should put something about the Cape and the ECCI organization and what they're doing. Would anyone, and put it on our website, here's this group, and then put a link to their website, right?
Yes, because they've got a lot of useful information up there.
Right, okay. I'll take an action item to write a paragraph and then put it on our website to recognize theirs. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is working with the town administration. Now, at one point, we had invited our new town administrator to come to this meeting. He begged off and said he would happily support us next month. I'd like to note that next month, our meeting is likely to be what, the third Thursday? Is that it? And
Yeah, do we have an exact date?
well, the third Thursday is an exact date, but let's see. I want to go to the town calendar.
Oh, make sure there's no
Well, I'm
conflict there.
afraid there might be.
Yeah. Because Rebecca Ruffley, who we want to attend at the same time, the assistant town manager, she was caught up in another town meeting,
So
zoning
the
board.
meeting would be on the 18th of September, but I think that's going to be one on Thursday evenings. That's when the Lawrence Road Group is meeting, and I think we may end up being conflicting with
I think
them.
one is meeting tonight, yeah.
Yeah, they're meeting then, but I think also the 18th.
So what
Well,
happened to
that's-
August? Are we not meeting in August?
Or maybe it was, I'm sorry, August 18th. August 18th. I'm look, right now, there's nothing on the town calendar for August 18th. But there potentially will be. Why don't I put that meeting on the town calendar immediately?
And that's the meeting that we hope the administrators will come
Well,
to.
that's what they had told us, right? Am I quoting them right?
That, well, they want to try and attend, but of course, it all depends on their schedule.
Right.
Is it, you know,
So
there's
it
nothing
depends
else
on
in
what other
future.
meetings. Well, let's try to set it up for the 18th. And to do that, I think we should try to get some list of what we would like to talk to them about. Right?
Yeah, Carol came up with something, and maybe, right, Carol, you have a list of items, and
Uh,
maybe you can send it out for all of us to review.
Did I write that down? I don't remember.
Well, oh, well, you know
that.
what? I wrote it down when we were talking.
Yeah, if you have your
So
notes.
maybe you and I can work on it
Yep,
and then send it out.
Okay, and let's make sure we put the electric school buses and the stretch code revisions on as well. Okay, because just to alert them that we're interested in these things, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Robert. Global Covenant of Mayors.
Yes, well, I've been attempting to go through the process of submitting a updated version of the information for the Global Covenant. And they have made a major change in their system, which introduces a distinction made for the different kinds of followers. For instance, the contrast between a large city like New York and the town of Wellfleet. I mean, this is just very substantial differences in what makes sense to be putting into the report. So they've made an effort to do that, but in the process of doing it, they made it even more complicated. And so I've been struggling with this, and they go into a large, fantastic level of detail on each kind of thing. So if you start talking about what we're doing for the effect of the changing weather on the town, and the level at which you're addressing your proposals, which include questions like, are you taking into consideration the different kinds of citizens you have? Are you especially doing something for elder people? Are they being considered in your plans? And this elaboration goes on and on. It's very challenging, and I've been really struggling with it. I have to say that a few days ago, I expressed the question about whether I could do this or not. I don't think anybody else wants to do it, so I'm kind of feel
thought
that
you were going to bring up questions that we could discuss at this meeting, things that you wanted some thoughts on.
Well, you sent me some very useful stuff that dealt with one of the sectors here, and I've been struggling with what things are really optional in that questionnaire and what things are not, and I don't really have a good answer to that. I
Well-
will say that I'm not giving up. So
Yeah. Well, what you sent was you wanted to know what commitments the town had made, so I found that on our website. And then I found also, because I know we needed it, I managed to finally get the URL and I sent it out to everybody for the production that's going on in the capped landfill. I have called the school, what is it called? Building maintenance manager now. To set up an appointment to read the meter, but he hasn't got back to me. He's the only one I need an appointment for. I can always drop in on the library or the fire department anytime they're open. The library, I have to look at their hours, but the fire department's always open. So once I hear from the school, I'll go read the meters again. That was the one piece of information beyond the landfill, and we now have the landfill information online.
right, and that will be very helpful. But we also need the same equivalent in respect to the new version produced by CCC for what's being done by the town.
The Cape Cod Commission, what are they asking for?
The Cape Cod Commission produced a new version of the analysis of vulnerability.
Okay,
And so what we've put in the previous reports are the analysis that was done in 2017. Okay, this
didn't we
is
just
a
reissue the hazard mitigation plan?
yes. Well, that's what I'm talking about. So
That wasn't the
was
Cape
just-
Cod Commission. That
What?
was Wellfleet department heads.
Yeah, because that was a state
Assistants from the
requirement.
commission, But
okay, so I need to be able to provide in my update a handle to the document itself
Right,
that they can access. They don't want me to simply provide a copy of the document. They want me to provide a copy of the official link to the document.
right.
So
So,
that's been changed.
So if there are two things that we should do about that. One, if anyone has a copy of the PDF file, I'll put it on our website and we can do that. But secondly, I went to the town's website and looked up the hazard mitigation plan, and it's the 2017 version.
Right.
it's there, Dick. I didn't respond yet because it still says draft and I want to figure out who to ask why it
Please
still
send
says
it to me
draft.
anyway, draft or otherwise, okay? Please send me the link, because when you go through the town's website, you look up documents and reports, you end up with the 2017 version. Okay,
Right, so we need to fix that.
so I want to write to them and say, here's the updated one. And if it says draft, okay, but who has to approve it so it's not a draft anymore? Or was it already approved, in which case take the word draft off the title and post it. So let's push the town to put it on the town's website.
Right,
But
That will
please send
clear
me
that
any
issue.
copy you have, Carol. All
It
right,
is there. Yep.
well, it isn't, maybe it's there, but boy, I spent at least half an hour poking around looking for it. And I found the old one, but not the new one. So maybe their website needs to be a little more easy to find stuff when you're looking for it. A search function, something.
Fixing that will help the response we get from the,
So what
Global
else do you need,
Covenant.
Bob, besides that?
well, okay, when I get past that, I'll probably find some other things that are like that, but
Okay, but is there anything you want to talk about with the committee at this point?
now, I guess the only issue that I had was, given that the original objective of doing this was to get the town to sign on to something, which they did, what is now achieved by investing the effort and continually, updating and improving this? And
The only thing that's achieved is every time they come up with another good idea, we can use it to beat the town over the head and say, let's do it. Okay, that's the only effort that I can think of. It may not mean we have to be in the good graces of the Global Covenant of Mayors, but when they have a good idea, we want to use it to get the town to adopt it.
Right.
All right.
Okay, well, I
We're
will
using it as guidance. Let's put it that way.
continue to do my best in keeping it up to date.
And I appreciate it because it's a lot of work.
Me too.
Okay. Let me see. What's our next item? Global Covenant of Members. We talked with Robert. Oh, yeah. Climate action workshops. So this is a Dick Elkins special. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I did do a series of 3 workshops on climate action with Am Hayam, which is the Jewish congregation. The 3 workshops were, the first one was conservation. Well, okay. The point of this set of workshops is there are 3 things that have to happen simultaneously. We need to electrify transportation and home heating. We need to get to renewable energy in our electric supply so that when we electrify, we're using renewable energy to do it. And we need to do conservation. And so that ended up being translated into 3 workshops. The first was on conservation and electrifying home heating and appliances and cooling, which I did in conjunction with the Cape Light Compact. The second one was on electrifying transportation, and that was about electric cars. And the third one was on solar, putting solar on the roof, which is the old solarized Wellfleet material, tried to bring it up to date. So that's 3 lectures. And Carol has pointed out that there's a 4th aspect to this, which is sequestering carbon. And the only way we can sequester carbon is to stop having all these cows belching methane and start reforesting pasture land. Now, that's something that's really a 20-year horizon, I'm afraid. And the only way it's going to happen is when bacterially created protein replaces cows, beef. Now, that sounds a little obscure, but if you've had an Impossible Burger, that's what we're talking about. And within the next 20 years, the technology looks as if that's going to economically replace raising cattle. That is, it's going to be cheaper to buy a steak or a hamburger that's been raised in a bioagriculture farming environment than to actually go get a cow, milk a cow or slaughter a steer. So there is some hope for that to happen. But it is, I think, a 20-year prospect realistically. And it takes a lot of research to put that together. I mean, you never get anybody to do the right thing just by saying it's the right thing. You have to get to the point where the technology makes it economically viable and favorable to do the right thing. So that's, at least in my view. All right, but nobody does anything just because it's the right thing to do. You have to have EVs replace ICE cars because they're cheaper and better. Solar panels because it's cheaper and better than burning coal and so on, or wind because it's cheaper and better than burning coal and so on. That's the only way the progress is going to happen. At least I think so. It seems to be the way it's happened in the past. So that's going to take a little bit of work to think about it. I'm not sure I can sit down and write an hour presentation on that yet.
This may or may not be connected, but in my work on the GCOM report, I try to address the fact that for instance, the shellfish industry is a very significant industry in Wellfleet. The question is, how significant is it? And then specifically, what things have been done that are tried to address that being damaged by what's happening?
Yeah. So did you come up with an answer to any of that?
No, but if I were filling in these parts of the report, I would need to have some measure of the economic significance.
So
just to say it's big for the town.
That would be an interesting question to ask our shellfish constable. What is the effect of climate change? Have we done anything about it? And what's the effect?
My understanding is that acidification puts shellfish in real danger because the shells deteriorate.
Right. Yes, that's
So there must be some projections for the economic impact. I would assume that's in the Cape Cod Commission's report about sea level rise.
I don't think so. It should be.
I'm as a member of the Cape Cod Commission, I don't hold any hope for them having any original thinking. I'm glad they have this report out, but having fought tooth and nail to get them to agree that what they were doing was not all perfectly okay and all that needed to be done,
So, okay, so another angle on this is, let's consider what the effect is of the climate change on the tourist industry.
Okay. But
I mean, I don't know how Wellfleet measures the economic significance of the tourist industry.
Well, we know, let's assume we can figure out how much money we collect from hotels and motels, restaurants, the value of second homes and so on. That we could probably figure out because we collect taxes on all of it. But the question is, what's the effect? Does climate change hurt it or does it help it? When Boston has 104 temperatures and the Cape is still at 82, is that a help or a hindrance? mean, people used to come to the Cape because it was cooler in the days before air conditioning. It's still cooler.
Well, I mean, there are other ones, like, for instance, the increased population of seals attracting sharks and the consequence of there being more sharks in terms of creating an impression that it's dangerous, which the town reacted to very strongly under, last year under those circumstances.
Yeah, but the seals aren't here because of climate change. The seals are here because you can no longer club them to death and use their fur. All right. And maybe we should advocate to kill more seals because
Oh,
it's hurting
no.
the tourist industry.
Has
Or
it
better
really
still,
hurt?
import orcas.
Has there been a long-term decrease in visitors to the Cape because of the sharks?
No, it's been
I
worse.
don't know that it's been
It's been
badly affected.
Yeah, it's been a long-term increase in second home ownership that you can measure. And we don't know if
Yeah.
that's due solely to COVID or whether or not it's a continuing trend of people
Yeah.
keeping second homes for because it's a good place to vacation. It's very complicated.
I'm
Bob.
going to have to get off in a few minutes.
Okay, well, all right, there is some other items we need to get to. Bob, one thing, we should have a conversation with Nancy Savetta. You want to find out when she's available and talk to her and pose that question? What does she see is the impact and what does she see that we've done? Okay. Yeah, I want to,
I'm having a trouble here. My internet connection is unstable. Sorry about that.
okay, well, let's come back, but before Sue leaves, one of the items on the agenda is election of officers. All right, and it's been a couple of years since we went through the motions of doing anything about this. But I think if everyone's willing, I'm willing to stay on as chairman, but I would like to ask that Susan become vice chair. Okay, and I talked to Chuck and he's okay with that. So is that okay with other people that we elect Susan as vice chair?
Suzanne.
Suzanne,
Sounds like a good idea to me.
okay.
Oh, thank you.
So I would like to, and let's just renominate Lily while we're at it. She can always refuse to accept the job, but in the meantime, I'd like to propose a slate of me for chairman, Suzanne for vice chair, and Lily for secretary. So is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that means it's unanimous. Carol, Dick, Robert, Suzanne. Okay. Thank you. At some point, I can't go on forever. We have to think of other people. We have one vacancy. We need to think about filling it. Maybe two if Chuck decides not to stay on, although he may stay on. But just about everybody else is working very hard. GB works hard, even though he's part-time in town. David does. We need more people because we have a lot of good work to do. Okay. And you're all doing it. All of you. Okay. So thank you, Susan. Let me go back now to these climate action workshops. I would also like the committee to formally agree that this is a committee activity to hold these workshops. I've already reserved the library and I have most of the material, although I'll be revising some of it because I've gotten some feedback. So
First one is August 31st, right?
yes, and then every week, weekly thereafter.
Okay.
I have posted links to the existing videos, the first two workshops. And I can send out the material, but I'm perfectly willing to have other people add stuff or have a different spin or whatever. I'm not sure if I can do the fourth workshop on food in time for this round. But I also expect to be able to do this over and over and over again in other towns. And maybe other people can do it too. So as the time gets nearer, we ought to talk about publicity. I will have it in the library newsletter. We'll have it in the, I'll try to get in the Wellfleet Forum newsletter. Maybe I'll put it on the town calendar and what else, and anything else I can think of. Okay. Any suggestions about that? Yeah, Suzanne?
No, I was just going to say I'm signing off.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we've lost our quorum.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
When
that's not
Robert.
good. Is Robert gone too?
I think so. Robert, are you here?
No.
No.
He said he was having trouble.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, between you and Robert, he was here for the vote. That was the important thing. Okay.
okay. See you next month.
Okay. See you next month. And
Thank
we're going
you.
to,
Yeah.
in one thing, please forward to Suzanne and me topics to talk to town administration about. Because the meeting will be more productive if we have an agenda that addresses
Absolutely.
their concerns.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay?
we'll put that together.
Good. Okay, see you all
Okay.
next month.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.